The meeting will be open to the public and live streamed from 5:30 p.m. on Council's YouTube channel. Acknowledgement of country. Devonport City Council acknowledges and pays respects to the Palawa Pakana people as the traditional and original owners of Lutruwita and continuing custodians of this land on which we gather. We will also acknowledge and pay our respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal elders past and present. Apologies, we have one Councillor Steve Martin is an apology tonight. We have the rest of our councillors here, which is great. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest is item 2, if I may. Any declarations of interest, please?
Yes, me.
You're not working either tonight. I'll turn mine off for a moment and see if that helps.
There we go. We're going to operate on one. That's good. Yes, Mayor, you do in items 4.1 and 4.2. I am engaged in my professional capacity in the real estate industry. I'm not known to the proponents, nor have I been engaged by them previously. I will be remaining in the room.
Or both?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? Councillor Moore.
Yeah, 5.7, purely because my son is part of the youth strikers who reside at the Valley Road precinct.
And you are
Staying
in the room? Thank you. Any other declarations of interest?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Lyon.
Item 4.2, I'm an associate of the representation on that development, but I'll be staying in the room. And also for item 5.7, I live in close proximity to the Devonport Rec Centre. It won't impact my ability to make judgment on that report, so I'll also be staying in the room for that one.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? No. Thank you very much for that. So item 3, procedural. 3.1 is the confirmation of minutes. The recommendation is there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved. Second.
Councillor Hollister, I think, and then Councillor Murphy. Thank you. Councillor Hollister. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Merely decision, mate.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. Councillor Hollister, close, please.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you very much. 3.2 is public question time. 3.2.1, responses to questions raised at prior meetings. The recommendation is there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy and second, please.
Second.
Councillor Viney. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
It's all in the report for everyone to see.
Thank you. Councillor Viney.
Nothing further to add. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Murphy to close, please.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 3.2.2 is questions on notice from the public. Again, we have those there. The recommendation is also there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Second.
Murphy and Councillor Ennis. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Merely decision, mate.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Any further comment from the councillors? No. Councillor Murphy, closed.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. 3.2.3 is questions without notice from the public. I note we have some people in the gallery there. Welcome. Do we have any questions coming from the gallery, please? Mr. Garden, welcome back.
Hello, Mayor. Congratulations to all those that were subsequently elected. This isn't the first question, but...
I just need to know who you are and where you're from.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Beaumont Drive, Mindetta.
Thank you.
Just a query. The last time I was here, I could read the screens. Is the font smaller all of a sudden? Because my optometrist tells me eyes and hands standing up all right, but tonight I can't really read these ones. So has something changed?
In 7 months, I don't think we've changed it, but I'll duly note it. Is it a little bit different, do you think, Mr. Janney? Mr. Janney, do you think it's a bit different to what you're normally used to?
Look at that one, I've got to look at that one.
Okay, sorry. We might have to have a look at that, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question one, I refer to my question one on notice and the General Manager's response on page 6 and 7 of tonight's agenda in relation to the beneficiaries of council funding, subsidies and concessions continuing to be afforded the sole right to withhold disclosure of any said benefits. Clearly the GM's response has now approved, as you've just approved, does not answer the question submitted and instead responds to a question not even asked. I do not believe that either the General Manager or councillors here do not understand the question fully. So the conclusion must be that the response is deliberate and council wishes to subrogate its responsibilities by maintaining this untenable layer of avoiding disclosure of matters that might be embarrassing to council. Accordingly, in the hope that council will be honest and transparent enough to admit that it is comfortable with the status quo as an added means to avoid scrutiny. I again ask, and this was the question I asked and I didn't get an answer to it, will council take full ownership for making or not making public disclosures and stop hiding behind the fictitious notion that entities will not engage with council if council were to contractually retain sole discretion as to making public disclosures relating to contractual arrangements and move to remove this absurdity where a private enterprise can veto the public disclosure of benefits it receives, including public funding and or concessions granted by council.
Thank you.
Yes, through you, Mayor. As stated in the response, council makes as much information openly available as it can. However, it reserves the right, should it need to do something in closed session. I can't be much clearer than that.
Thank you.
If I can just have a follow-up to that, Madam Chair. The question isn't about the right of council to have things in closed session and not to release disclosures. The question is, why does council continue to remain or allow it to remain that contractors and consultants working for council have the final say in whether something is disclosed, and that could be beneficial.
I'll refute that for the moment, Mr. Darwin, if I may.
Yeah.
Thank you. You understand what commercial in confidence means, don't you?
I do.
That's right. I know you do. So
I also understand what a contract is when one of the parties has the sole right to make
Mr.
disclosure.
Darwin, please, if that's all right. I'm happy to talk to you outside of council at any time further about this matter, which I'm sure, because you seem to be going on about that same issue.
You're not answering it, Madam Chair. That's the problem.
Oh, yes, we are.
No, you're not.
Yes, we are.
No.
You're not liking the answer.
No, you're not answering the question.
That's okay. We have answered you tonight. I'm happy to talk to you further about that if you would like. However, we will move on. Thank you.
Okay, check with government bodies and the Department of Construction and see whether you can have confidentiality as a sole right of the contractor. Thank you, Madam Chair. Question 2. Thank you very much. Question 2. I refer to my question 1 on notice and the General Manager's response on page 8 of tonight's agenda in relation to the lack of adequate train warning signs for pedestrians using the existing crossing, the new one put in by the elevator walkway. And I again ask, is it an acceptable safety risk for council to leave this crossing inadequately signposted while, and I quote, council is continuing to engage with Tasrail in relation to the existing and additional crossings for Waterfront Park. It's got one sign parallel to the pedestrians using it. If you're coming south heading north, you would see it. If you're coming north heading south, you wouldn't see it. If you're coming west going east across the crossing, you don't see it. It's parallel to the crossing. Is that an acceptable risk to council that we have one inadequate train warning sign there?
So would you like a second sign? Is that what you're saying, Mr.
Beg pardon?
You'd like a second sign on the other side?
I think it should be signed as it's
I
supposed
just
to
want a
be.
simple question and answered. Would you like a second sign?
I believe it would need at least 2 signs and they need to be facing where the pedestrians will see
One
them.
sign, you'd like a second sign?
Well, I think there's rules about crossings.
Just answer me.
I'm not making the rules for the sign.
No, I'm
If you,
asking you
if
the
you went
question.
to the regulations, to the train regulations, you'll find out what you're supposed to have.
Thank
If you look at the old one that looks more temporary down to the ferry, it's got pedestrians or warning for signs. Square to where you walk across.
Thank you.
The other side, square where you walk across. This one's got nothing. It's got a sign facing south that basically no one crossing can see.
Would you like a second sign, Mr. Garner?
I'd like it signposted properly. Someone needs to decide that. I'm not the rail regulator. I'm surprised it's been there for months. Well, it's your risk. It's council's risk. If somebody gets hit with a train and there's no signage there.
We
So
will look into that for you. Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Excellent.
And question 3, I refer to the Advocate article dated 13th of June 2023, headed Devonport CBD $3 million plan for a cycling hub and apartments, and it reported that the 29 Fenton Way has been sold, and accordingly, and this is the question, will council confirm if council will need to undertake works, that's civil works or otherwise, to facilitate the sale and or proposed development, such as boundary adjustments or realigning Fenton Street as part of this development? Or are they taking the block as?
Thank you.
Not
We'll look into
trying.
that and give you a question.
That's my question.
Take that on notice. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Ned.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you, Mayor Jarman. My name's Douglas Janney, 23 Watkinson Street, Devonport. The paintwork on the steelwork at the Spirit of the Sea needs attention. When will this happen?
We'll take that on notice if that's all right. Thank you. Stuart, experience.
Question 2. At what depth will an urban road depression be considered for repair?
Again, I'll have to take that on notice. I'm not a planner, as you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the gallery tonight? No? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. 3.3, item 3.3, questions on notice from councillors, there is none. 3.4, notice of motions, there is none. Item 4, we are going to planning authority matters. I now announce that council intends to act as a planning authority under the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 for the consideration of agenda items 4.1 and 4.2. So going to 4.1, 12 Don Vista Drive, the recommendation is there. If I could have a vote, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Hollister. And a seconder?
So second.
Councillor Wilczynski, thank you, Councillor Hollister.
There's been some appeals against this subdivision, but I believe the conditions that our council planners have put forward should allow the development to go ahead. Nothing further to add.
Thank you, Councillor Wilczynski.
Yep, I'm on. I can see that council has done its due diligence because this is only step 1 in the whole process of this site, and I think the planning process is correct to be followed. So yes, I agree that the planning permit be given.
Thank you. Any further comment? No, Councillor Hollister to close, please.
So we're closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 4.2 is 7 to 9 Finlayson's Way, Devonport. Recommendation is there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. And a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Wilczynski, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, again, it's just supporting the confidence that private investment has in Devonport. There is a pathway there for this development to proceed. There was one representation, but I think those issues will be addressed in the building permit stage. and those conditions have been outlined very clearly by the planners. It's a good use of a derelict site, if you like, on pretty much the entrance to Devonport, and it aligns with other development that has occurred in and around that precinct over the last few years.
Thank you. Councillor Wilczynski.
Yes, I concur with Councillor Murphy that it's great to see further confidence in the Devonport's growth, with another brand new site being developed as a big box retail, and further to that with the rest of the development that's happening in the area. I think it's great to see, so I agree with it.
Thank you. Any further comment from the councillors? Councillor Hollister.
Yes, I'm pleased to see this one come up for development. It's been derelict for probably 30 years or more, I'd raise, as it to say. It's been a difficult site for people have looked at it in the past, and it's pleasing to see that somebody's now come forward with a development that should work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Viney.
Thank you, Mayor. Being posed as a question, but there is quite a lot of development in this area, as Councillor Murphy alluded to, especially with the car wash and petrol station going across on that corner of Formby Road and Elizabeth Street. So the question is, and I know this is close to the intersection I'm talking about, but I think it will impact it. Currently, when you're pulling out of Finlayson Way, you can turn left onto Formby Road, which is quite safe, but correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, I believe you can continue straight across that intersection towards Elizabeth Street to go up Elizabeth Street, or also turn right towards town on Formby Road. Is there any or should we potentially look at that intersection to perhaps make it a bit safer? That's the question.
Yes, through you there. As has been discussed before, I think council are aware that at some point in the future there'll need to be an upgrade of that intersection. However, it's not conditioned as part of this application.
Thank you. You happy with that?
Happy with that, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for asking it.
Yep.
It's good to bring these things up, just so people are aware that we are aware. Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really pleased that this development is being proposed, because that's not very pleasant to look at. I've been past there a lot, and hopefully it will improve a lot.
Might be because of the big city, not sure. You never know. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor Holster, your light is still on. Did you have a question?
Yes. I believe the block comes out next to the electrical business. You can turn right there. If you can't get into Elizabeth Street from down there, though, you have to go under the bridge and come back along Formby Road. Can you do a right-hand turn, or a U-turn at
Under the lights, under the overpass, you can.
just pass through that? But
Yes.
right.
Was that double check? Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Murphy, to close, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank fellow councillors for their questions and concerns, and obviously the traffic management issues will be addressed in due course. Having said that, Mayor, again, as I've stated already, it is exciting to see some positive growth and development in that precinct, and consider the matter closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you. We move to 5 is reports. 5.1 is the rates and charges policy. Into the budget time now. So the recommendation is there, everything is there. If I could have a vote, please.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, and second, please.
Second.
Councillor Ennis, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, at this time of year, this is the statutory or the regulatory role that we have to play with respect to meeting our legislative requirement about adopting this policy prior to going in and looking at our rates. So it's all there for everyone to see. It's merely procedural. So the only exception or inclusion that is changed from any other year has been the fact that during our budget deliberations, The council was unanimous in making the reflect decision to allow indexation of the $300 base charge or base component of our rates. It is something that obviously as a new council, that decision wasn't taken lightly. And I think it's an important reflection of the current economic conditions that we face, and it's probably something that we should have considered some period of time ago. Having said that, it's there for everyone to see. So we need to adopt this prior to moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis, your turn.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Any further comment from the council table? Councillor Viney.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. Great to be a part of this for the first time. And I think it's fair to say that we'd be quite envious of other councils along the coast with our ability to be able to keep that rate increase at an acceptable level. I was closely following the updated scoring on the Advocate, and I believe we've come in second on the coast. So second lowest rate increase on the coast is something to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. I do believe we'll be one of the lowest in the state.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further comment from the council table? Councillor Murphy, close please.
Thank you, Mayor. Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you. Item 5.2.
So moved.
Second.
The annual plan and budget. Thank you. So Councillor Shan, thank you, and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Shan.
Just with fellow councillors' indulgence, I've written a couple of notes so I can remove all these numbers, so apologies for looking at the screen. A couple of key takeouts from me on this year's budget as a new councillor. The rate increase for this year of 3.9% is approximately half the rate of inflation and represents less than $1.50 per week increase for a typical residential property. There are no new borrowings, which is great, with total debt on track to be reduced to $44.6 million by 30 June 2024. I note from an operational perspective, the budget assumes income of $49.16 million and expenditure of $46.03 million, resulting in a surplus of $3.12 million, reduced to $763,800 after the prudent removal of the profit from council's ownership of Dalton. With that out of the way, I'd just like to say this is a really exciting time for anyone living or investing in Devonport. It's an exciting milestone as we prepare for curbside photo collection, EV charging stations and more EVs in our council fleet. The coming budget year will also embark on community engagement for Rook Street improvements, commence the master planning for Fenton Way, design and tender our new waste transfer station, enhance our city entry points with the work of respected artists, and launch the new Sound and Light Show in the waterfront precinct. For our business and industry groups, the city will launch a Devonport event strategy and brand new prospectus for the city, as well as an industrial land use strategy and continuation of dialogue with state and federal governments to address housing and rental demand. A lot of work's gone into the budget to ensure that strategic capital investment continues to insulate the city as much as possible against economic cycles. This is no better illustrated with the top tourism award the city won last week, which many of our businesses will leverage. When combined with ongoing projects, the $13.8 million, which is budgeted for new capital expenditure, with its focus on asset renewal and road safety, creates a pipeline of over $20 million in construction activity this financial year. The local government spend will hopefully smooth out any softening of private capital in the construction sector. Cost of living has been a key thread of this budget, and it's a timely reminder. I urge everyone here tonight and watching online to please buy local, particularly over the next 18 months, where I think a lot of our retailers and general businesses are going to find those softening economic conditions hard. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Shan. Being her first year here on council, it is pleasing to see the effort that's gone into some hard decisions that had to be made. And there were some hard decisions with respect to, councillors sitting around the table and understanding the current economic climate and the cost of living pressures that are associated with that. However, I think, as the council has done over a number of years, demonstrated its ability to be fiscally responsible. And that's evidenced by the fact that we are only having a 3.9% rate increase, which, as Councillor Viney alluded to in the previous agenda item, is the second lowest along the coast. Again, it's something we can be proud of, but more importantly, the fact that we've had the courage to make the decision with respect to putting this on the table tonight, with a view that this will place us in good stead to address the issue of debt reduction in the near future. By taking this modest step forward, it is going to place council in a strong financial position, and as it states in the report, it will provide council with an opportunity to review its 10-year financial plan. Again, we're all ratepayers sitting around this table, and I think we can see the benefit of the work that's gone in by previous council in putting us into the position we currently are at the moment. And I think there needs to be some acknowledgement of that. And the fact that we're able to, as a new council, put forward such a positive budget with respect to addressing not only the renewal and maintenance components of our CapEx, but also the opportunity to modestly move forward with new capital projects. I don't think there'd be too many councils along the coast that would be able to sit around the table with confidence and say that they're in that position as what we are. And again, evidenced as by one of the planning matters that were raised in agenda item 4.2. The confidence that gives the private sector moving forward is something that we should be proud of. So it's there for everyone to see, and I encourage my fellow councillors around the table to support it, and we look forward to taking this to the community tomorrow in the budget breakfast. And again, it will be with some confidence and some pride that we can turn around and say that we've been able to achieve this, and this is what we're going to continue to do. So I commend it to everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. Yep, Devonport City Council was enviable across the state for our strong financial position that we're in. I have a number of friends around the place, and obviously they speak with me because they know I'm involved in council, and they say, how are you doing it up there? And so they are very envious of the way that we've managed to form our budgets and continue to progress like we are doing. So, yep, I fully support it too.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Question to the General Manager, if I may. Has there been any improvement with the fire service levy that we pay towards the government for our urban fire brigade, which winds up going to Ulverston, Latrobe, Kentish municipalities, and they pay a much lower rate for their fire levy than we do? Has there been any progress in, I know it's got to come under the Local Government Act, I believe, but have we had any progress in fixing the inequality?
Through you, there's been no change that we're aware of. The government said they are reviewing it, but at this stage there's no change to the current structure of the way that levy is calculated.
Thank you. Any further comment from the councillors on the table? Councillor Wojcinski.
Thank you, Mayor. Holding the increase to the 3.9, I think which is really half of the inflation rate, the council should be commended. All council costs are increasing, greater than the percentage that the rate's increasing, and of course, council has been working really hard to minimise the rate rise, and under the underlying sound financial position of the council has been the factor to provide this greater outcome for the community. So I think the council should be congratulated for the hard work that they're doing.
Thank you. Councillor Viney.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank actually the council officers. There was quite a lot of learning, especially from the new councillors that went into that budget process. I think we got up to 8 videos, so 8+ hours of learnings, but it was a really excellent way to bring the new councillors up to speed. So I'd like to personally thank Matthew and Jason for the work they put into that, because it did make it a lot more, I won't say easier, but it certainly allowed us to be brought up to speed quickly. And then I think it's also important to thank the community for their suggestions and inputs. And if I could take away one thing from the whole process, that there's a 10-year capital project program, and obviously there's a lot of projects in that 10 years. So I guess the message to the community is if it hasn't been budgeted for this financial year, to stay on it, because there is a long list of projects that are only getting bigger. And I think it's wonderful that council can do what we do in the 12-month period. So thank you very much.
Well done. Any further comment? I just will quickly comment and just say, yes, I agree. It would have been so easy as a council for us just to look at inflation and CPI and go, well, that's it, that's what we're doing, it's an 8% increase, and we won't cut services, go home. Instead, we had a long slog of working and trying to bring it down as far as we could, so that, because we are very aware of there is certain people out there doing it hard, cost of living pressures, let alone there are a lot of people that are really struggling with everything that increases at the moment. We're aware of that. So I'm extremely proud of this team just getting together in the last 7 months, and then for the staff to do so much work behind the scenes to get us up to speed, and for us to know that we're not just doing what we call as a moderate rate increase. We're not cutting any services. It could have been so easy to just do a large rate increase, add more services and go crazy, but I think we've just shown that we know what we're doing here, and we're one of the councils that really do lead on this coast, let alone in the state. I'm very, very proud of this council. Extremely proud to be presenting this budget, and all I can say is thank you to everybody for all the hard work that has been involved. And I ask Councillor Shin to close, please. I have a question.
Comment,
I'm so sorry, Councillor Holt.
It's actually a comment. Just that our budget system with the General Manager and the Executive team coming through like we do now with our video link-ups on each section, I think is excellent, and I probably don't know if it's done like that anywhere else in the state, but I think it's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I allow Councillor Sheen to close down, Councillor Hollister?
You may.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sheen, over to you.
Just quickly through you,
Sorry.
Mayor, I just want to acknowledge Josh too. Did a lot of
Absolutely.
the background work as our senior accountant in his first budget period.
Very, very much so. Thank you. Councillor Sheen, take it away.
Yes, I'd just like to quickly acknowledge Councillor Viney's comments. I was also really impressed with the quality of the suggestions that came in from the community, their thoughtfulness and some of the ideas that they brought forward were really impressive. Anyway, we'll consider the matter closed. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you very much. 5.3 is the review of strategic plan for 2009 through to 2030. The recommendation is there. I'm sure you've read the strategic plan thoroughly. If I could have a mover, please.
So,
Oh, Councillor Hollister,
Second.
I think you got there. Councillor Murphy, thank you. Councillor Hollister, to comment first.
this is our review of the strategic plan from 2009 through to 2030, so it's a bit over halfway through. And all the recommendations that are in the response here, so nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy? Oh, don't turn on. There you go.
No? Yeah, here we go. I'm back. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, again, this is part of normal council process. However, the exciting thing about this particular strategic plan is the inclusion of the term plan. It's something that councillors came together, again being a new council, came together in a workshop which I believe that the council exec.
We can probably hear you through this.
How about I try this one?
The term plan is 5.4, just so you know. Keep going.
Don't, okay.
I won't. Yes, it is.
That's right. Just
However, it is there to assist council in making decisions as part of the strategic plan. So, and again, that process was a process that actually highlights the change in the culture of the organisation of council and the positive impact that that's had. And that's evident again by the quality of the council staff and the workplace that we actually provide as part of that, and how this all aligns with the direction of council. So,
thank you, Councillor Murphy. Squashing it around. Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Any further comment from the table?
Yes?
Councillor Ennis.
We all have one of these now. People may not be aware of it, but it comes from the term plan that we sort of come across, and something that we should strive towards, and it sort of fits with the other commitments that the rest of the teams have across council. So as well as all the other teams having it, council have got their own commitments as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister, did you have a question before your closing? No, that's all right. I just didn't know if you were asking a question. I'm just checking. Any further comment from the table? Councillor Hollister to close.
This term plan is for the next 4 years of this current council and staff. As far as I know, we haven't had one of these before. The nearest thing to it would be what we had to say, the 10-year plan for Living City, which is still ongoing, with more stages to come. So I think this is just a further adoption of this council moving forward.
Thank you. Is it closed then, therefore?
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you. So we'll now go to 5.4, which is the adoption of the 2026 term
Second.
plan. There we go. Councillor Moore and Councillor Wilczynski, thank you. Sorry. Did I lose you? Oh, sorry. Councillor Moore, sorry. Councillor Wilczynski. Councillor Moore, sorry.
Thank you, although I feel like we've already kind of done this, but this is an important link, especially for new councillors, because it personalises and focuses on what this newly elected council will do or signed up to for the next 4 years. Obviously, a term plan is not mandated, but I do think that it's a really good document to guide us in our priorities and where that fits within the whole strategic plan, which we just talked about. I also just wanted to note it is presented beautifully, and the photos and the images in here are stunning. So to whoever put that together, it looks beautiful and it's something to be really proud of.
Thank you. Beautifully said. Thank you. Councillor Wilczynski.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as being a new council with the others, and I think this has been a really important part for the council to bring this together so we feel like we've got ownership and a direction. It's a new initiative and it brings us into focus and vision and planning of the Devonport City Council, and we're a team, and I think that's the great part of it. And I agree with Councillor Moore with the imagery, and I think it's young Anna who's put it all together. It's been absolutely brilliant. I think it's good. Looks professional. We are professional, and let's move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Shan.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I've always read the strategic plan for Devonport Council, and I've always found it just a little bit vague, probably is not the right word, but I'm really happy that we've got a term plan for the first time this year, because I think it helps us really crystallise our collective goals. And it's also great for transparency and accountability, because where the strat plan can be a bit sort of general, we're really sort of nailing our colours to the mast and saying what we intend to deliver in this 4-year term. And anyone that's sort of run a company or worked as part of a team knows that if you're not really crystal clear on your goals, you don't deliver them. And again, I really like the artwork. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Just a question. This obviously now, if it's adopted, is it going to be available on the website?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
A whole
I'm sure people will want to have it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And good question, Drew. Any further comment from the table? I will say that for the time I've been on council, for us to have a term plan is unheard of, and it was really a no-brainer, and we thank the General Manager for bringing that to our table and having us getting together on that day that we did at Devonport, which was a lovely spot to have. We had great facilitators. The staff were there to help us along the way too. The executive did a really great job, and it was so thorough and so fruitful, and it really keeps us on track. And it's something to aim for and to work together. Yes, we can still have our own bits and pieces that we want to do and want to achieve, but this is that clear direction and sends us through for the 4-year term. And it's just a wonderful tool for us to have. So I really do appreciate it. I certainly, again, agree with my fellow speakers about the actual visuals on here are beautiful. And I will give a quick shout out to Anna Halabilius, who has done a lot of work with this, as well as the other staff as well. But certainly a shout out to Anna for her work here, our media lady, and she's doing a really great job. And I certainly will now thank and say to Councillor Moore for her to close with her statement.
Consider it closed.
Huge statement. Thank you very much. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you. 5.5, smoke-free area at Sprayton Waste Transfer Station. A recommendation is there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Oh, Councillor Hollister, I think you beat
Yeah,
Councillor
second.
Murphy, you can. Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
I think the smoke-free area of the Sprayton Waste Transfer Station is very important. We've had some fires out there in past years, and they're very difficult to put out. So I think this is an extra safety point that's worth having.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
No brainer, man.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Viney.
Yeah, a couple of questions again. Thanks, Mayor, through you.
Certainly.
Probably most importantly, someone who's been through a process of making an area smoke-free. Were the employees at the TIP consulted on how they felt about it?
Through you, Mayor, yes they were, but just to note that tonight's report is to kick off the public consultation process. So that will give us the opportunity to not only have further consultation with staff, but also the public.
And one further one, I've noticed in the report it mentions about the fire, potential for fire off the cigarettes. In keeping with the times, e-cigarettes considered in the policy as well, probably more for employees again than for the public.
Through you, Mayor, yes they would be.
Thank you. All good, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. Yeah. I too was going to ask about the consultation with staff. I just wondered if that's the spot. Is it sort of that's where you're proposing at the moment without further consultation? Because it's right at the front as you're driving, isn't it?
Through you, Mayor, I presume you're referring to the spot that's actually the designated smoking area. Yeah, we've certainly had a lot of discussion to this point to put it, I guess, close to when somebody enters the site. But yeah, certainly the public feedback. I know for Market Square, the public feedback actually changed the designated smoking area for that. So yeah, we'll see what comes out of the consultation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Hollister, close, please.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. 5.6 is the state, vehicle entry point project and Northwest Gateway Improvements Project, the Public Art Commission. The recommendation is there for 1 and 2. So 1 is for 1 to 5 and site 8, and 2 is for 6 and 7 sites. If I could have a mover of the recommendation, please.
So moved.
Councillor Moore, thank you. And a seconder, please.
Seconded.
Councillor Wilczynski, thank you. Councillor Moore.
Yes, I'd like to put the recommendation forward for both number 1 and 2 for the various sites listed. Public art is a pretty controversial thing. We have funding from 2 projects to make Devonport more welcoming, to encourage visitors to stop, have a look and stay, rather than drive on past. There is no doubt that the eastern and western markers from Matt Calvert are going to be unforgettable and talking points. The navigational marker to the east and the forest to the west will generate emotion, both positive and negative. But they will be noticed, they will be seen, and with the good storytelling, they should be able to connect with Devonport's history and future. The second commissioning, Alex Miles, for sites 1 to 5, will be a really lovely entrance pathway into the city, a journey as people leave the Spirit and head into the CBD. I support this motion, knowing that it will be a talking point, knowing that community communication will be vital, and with an understanding that art will be controversial.
Thank you. Councillor Wilczynski.
Yes, I agree totally with Councillor Moore. I think it's been long overdue for our city though to have our markers or have some art showing the entry points or exit points to our cities. It probably will be controversial because art is, but I love the navigational markers of Matt and Alex's artwork as well. So I think it's great, and we should have more, even some lights on the bridge or something like that. But I think it's great. Good to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Ennis?
Thank you. Yes, I agree. This is something that I've been wanting a bit before, and it's something that I notice when I go to other cities, and I think at long last we will have something that will be noticeable. It'll be challenging for some people. It'll be a talking point. It'll be something that will people will remember as they go through. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you to all the people that worked hard on this, on the public arts committee, who worked at coming up and narrowing it down, etc., and getting us to the whole point. When I looked at the final 4, I'd have been pretty happy with nearly all of them in some respects. I know lots of people like literal art, and for example, you know, art that looks like a picture, a photograph. These don't. These will be a bit more challenging for people, but that's how you grow. You get challenged a bit, and you get to see and learn about it. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Well done, those people involved.
Thanks, Councillor Ennis. Councillor Hollister.
So I think these 8 sites around our city for the entrances were quite good. I didn't find any of the ones that have been recommended to be anything but, I'll say, fantastic. But after saying that, people probably need to remember that I had recommended the Spirit of the Sea, which went down like bad smell, I suppose. I think that was fantastic. The examples that we've all seen, I think are really good.
Oh, you're delightful, Councillor Hollister. It's not about you. Thank you for that. Councillor Viney, your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hollister, for that reminder. I think it's important on that to just remember that the to get to this point with the 8 sites and the 2 recommendations there was quite a robust scoring system and involved quite a few people on the Public Arts Committee that all had an input on that. Myself and Councillor Moore are on that committee, and I think going into the meeting earlier in the month, we probably didn't think we were going to end up with these recommendations, but I think on reflection and having those ideas marinate, it really did grow on us. And I think the take-home one for me personally, if people are not familiar with Matt Calvert's work, is to probably not judge the Photoshop picture that was submitted, because his work is truly fantastic, and to especially take the time to look at a similar navigational marker that was completed at Frankston called the Beacon, and that is an actual picture of what we're going to get, and it looks fantastic, and it's certainly going to be memorable. So thank you to everybody on the Public Art Committee, in particular Jeff, for leading that, because I think what we've ended up with is going to be really great. Thank you.
Well done, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, I'm going to be the first to admit that I'm not an art aficionado. Not necessarily my forte. I have dabbled in it in my previous business, where it was recommended that I put Daleks in some vintage photos of the Devonport, historic photos of Devonport along the Mersey River, and it created a significant amount of interest and a very good conversation point. But I think more importantly, not being art-minded, if you like, the fact that we have a community-based advisory body that provided support with Councillor Viney and Councillor Moore, having people that it is their passion, and their passion is Devonport, and the fact that they're able to come to a resolution or a presentation of what we're having a discussion on now. But more importantly, even for me, I was able to understand when you break down what's behind the spark plugs and what they actually mean. And it is going to be exciting. And the fact that we're very fortunate to have a committee like that led by, by Mr. Dobson, whose opinion I hold very highly with respect to taking advice on matters of art, because again, that's his passion. And I think we can do a lot about it. It's like business. If you find people that are passionate about something, and that is their passion, you'll listen to them, because the simple fact being is that they're going to have a better perspective than what I do. And I'm excited. I'm excited about what this is going to generate for our community. The conversation piece, the talking points, but more importantly, the opportunity for me, who isn't necessarily interested in art, but for me to be able to talk about it, because I understand what it is and what it means and how it relates to our river and all the other elements that are comprised in what's actually going to be delivered. And I think Councillor Viney hit it on the head. The renders that were produced are not going to reflect what's going to be presented, what's going to be constructed. And I think it's going to be exciting. And again, it's, as I've said over a number of years, Devonport again is leading the way in becoming an art precinct for the region. And again, we're just showing our commitment to growing that and to growing as a vibrant city.
Thank you. Councillor Sheen.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the committee and to Jeff for all the hard work that went into preparing such a great collection of art. Obviously, really happy with the selections of the committee. Look, I'd simply note with the Eastern Shore installation, personally, that doesn't sort of evoke or conjure up images of maritime history to me, but that is what it is. With the commencement of this project, I'd love to see running parallel just an overall review of the visitor journey into the city. I know the focus here is on our entry points, but we still have old bits of signage here and there as you come off the slip ramp the bridge or going up onto the bridge, you still sort of have this sort of dominant fence line of signage and whatnot for various businesses. I just think let's take the opportunity with the art installation, which is a bit like Living City, going to make anything around it look really average. Take the opportunity for a holistic review with the median strip where we've got landscaping, make sure all the plants are weed-free, any plants that have died out are replaced. And I would finally urge the state government to heed the calls of Devonport City Council to jolly well paint that bridge and get rid of weeds. It's really getting to the point where it looks quite unkempt. But anyway, just to reiterate, I really appreciate all the work that went into this, Councillor Laura Barney, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further comment from the table?
Question?
Question, Councillor Hollister.
Probably to
Jeff.
I believe from the photos we were shown, some of these artworks will be lit up at night.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, I believe all the concepts as presented do have a lighting element to them, all light.
Really good.
Thank you. I will just be honest. When I first, we had 19 submissions, and that was incredible. And that was thrown to the art gallery to make the decision to get down to 4. When the 4 came, I was a little bit subdued for me, which is amazing, I know, and really not sure. The excitement and passion that I got from Councillor Moore and Councillor Viney, who all went, we weren't there either, but we got there, and I appreciate that. The other thing was I had a quick mini break and I drove from Melbourne through to Werribee, and the art installations that are along the major freeways along there are amazing. And some of them made me think, I'm driving pretty fast past some of those, some of them made me think, and I thought, what is that? And the others were, oh, that's amazing, that's incredible, I love that one, I wish I took a photo of it. So that's what art's all about, the conversation that you will create by creating something from an artist who is so well renowned, as Matt Calvert is incredible. So I'm really proud that we've got to this point. I can't wait to see them. I think it's going to be, again, another start of something new that we can do and do it really well. Perhaps we won't be called Living City anymore, we'll be called Arty City. We're going to get to that point, I'm sure. You know, they always talk about Mona and Hobart, and they carry on about, you know, build it and they will come. Look what we're doing up this side of the state. We're really proving ourselves very, very well, and I'm really looking forward to this coming through. So thank you for everybody and all the work that's been involved in this, because it is a long process. And I know, Jeff, you're very excited by it. I know you're really pleased with where it's got to. That's going to be another pin in your cap, feather in your cap, because what you've brought to here at council with what you do from the area that you're in, it's just amazing. So we thank you very much for that and your team. And I would ask Councillor Moore to close.
Thank you, Mayor. I just urge the councillors to support the recommendation from the Public Arts Committee, the experts, that's not myself and Councillor Viney. I'm really encouraged to have 2 different artists and the combination of those works in the city. And I encourage councillors and anybody listening to talk to their friends, their families about what the art is actually representing. Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you very much. 5.7, sporting infrastructure priority investments. The recommendation is there with 5 points. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Viney?
Seconded.
Seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Hollister. Thank you. Councillor Viney?
Thank you, Mayor. It's quite a bit to unpack on this recommendation, having the 5 points there, but I will preface it by saying, you know, what a wonderful opportunity we have at council to be able to make these decisions. I believe we're the only council in Tasmania that received that federal funding for the work done on the sports infrastructure master plan and the 10 key priorities that were a part of that. So although there's probably some difficult decisions to be made, we really are in a fantastic opportunity because we are making those decisions. Probably we'll wait to summarise up at the end, and I've got a couple of questions for later as well. But hopefully encourage some really good debate on this one.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Yes, I'm supporting the recommendation as it stands at the moment. I think the two infrastructure projects are very important to the city. One, the soccer infrastructure is virtually shovel ready. The basketball complex has still got a way to go. One of the main questions I've probably got is that has the soccer club got all the funding it needs, or has they've still got some government funding to come forward?
Was that a question?
That's the question.
Through you, Mayor, I think it's outlined in the report, but as we talked about the workshop, Valley Road project, as we understand, is valued at $7.5 million, and the club currently has $3 million from the state government. So the request from council is the balance of the 4.5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further comment?
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor. I would actually like to move an amendment to the motion, which I can provide if you like. It's specifically around point 2, where provide in-principle support for the funding request from the Devonport City Soccer Club Inc. towards the Valley Road development, full stop, and remove the words subject to the resolution of the funding model for both projects.
So you just want that taken out? After Valley Road development?
Yep.
Full stop?
Full stop.
And then the rest is just put a line through that for the moment?
Yep, that's correct. And point 5.
Just make sure.
And point 5.
Point 5.
Remove the word both and replace it with the word the, and remove the letter S from projects at the end of that sentence.
So the second last word, remove that and make it and. Did you say and?
The.
Oh, the projects.
Yep.
Of the project. And what else did you want to say?
That's it, man. I'd like to move that as an alternative motion.
So if you're moving that, I need a seconder for you. I can have a second.
I'll second it, Mayor.
You are not able to, right? Because you put up the first motion.
So who moved the first and second?
Me and you.
You did, you can't vote.
So I can't vote.
We don't have a seconder for you, councillor Murphy.
So you.
We'll go back to 5.7 as it is. So we've got councillor Vining who commented, so has councillor Hollister. Councillor Murphy.
I'll comment then, Mayor, if that's right.
Okay, I was just going to go to councillor Wilczynski, but okay, councillor
No, that's
Murphy.
fine. I'll wait.
Okay, councillor Wilczynski.
I think we've worked this really well. We've had quite a few workshops and presentations, and I think we need to work together to get this to go forward. We've agreed that these two areas need the support, and we have work to do to complete it. But I think if we can unify ourselves and move forward, we can get a better outcome for everyone in the sporting precincts. So I'm for the proposal as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Shangle, you next.
Yeah, for me, the issue that I was sort of most interested in was the discussion around East Devonport versus West Devonport. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk to the representatives from basketball and cricket. Unfortunately, I kept playing phone tag with the netball representative. But what I was most interested in is, it's all very well for us to say where it should go, but where do the end users want it to go and why? And the resounding feedback was that it's got to be within walking distance from the high schools, so that those older children can get there off their own bat, because this is just the view of the participants and the clubs who run various for it. Parents are busy and can't often leave work to get to take their kids to these sporting venues. So that, as a parent who's had a primary school child who had to drive them everywhere, to now having a high school child who walks to footy, resonated with me quite a bit. So the only other point that I want to make, with indulgence, I know everyone's got to have their say, just very quickly, I also really enjoyed the discussions I had with those sports representatives. They seem to have a broader vision other than just the highball court. And we spoke about having some businesses or practices relating to sports medicine or sports marketing. This is a theme that Councillor Martin, who unfortunately isn't here tonight, has been talking about for many, many years. But I really do feel like they understand that vision, that there can be some massive vocational opportunities woven into this what is essentially a basketball netball court. But I do hope, just in closing, that once we decide where it is and how it's funded or whatever, it does promote an overall revisit on the opportunities for a strategic plan for that whole sports leisure precinct, because I don't think we've completely mined all the opportunities that can come out of that. It's a really big footprint, going from the tennis courts to the Surf Lifesaving Club to Meercroft to the Oval. Really, really unique opportunities there, but I don't think anywhere else has in the coast. So anyway, a lot of people have got stuff to say. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for presenting those options to us.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Ben. With the current way the resolution is written, we are running a real risk of losing potentially what has now been identified for the first time, a major sporting infrastructure priority, and that being Valley Road development. The reason being is because what we're now going to debate, or most people are now in support of, because they weren't prepared to have a common sense approach to changing the resolution, with respect to the Devonport City Soccer Club and the Valley Road development, is now going to be coupled with an unknown funding model. The funding does not exist. There isn't a DA, there isn't a business case, there isn't a business model for what is being proposed at the Devonport Oval. Now, I'm happy, the consensus from around the table is that the Devonport Oval complex is the spot. I disagree with what Councillor Sheen said with respect to providing access by the ability of walking. If we go down with respect to what the Sporting Infrastructure Master Plan, part of the vision was a healthy and active city of high quality, accessible and affordable sports infrastructure, delivering community-wide social, economic and environmental benefits. Now, the most disadvantaged in our community live in East Devonport. If we're looking at increasing participation, who should we be targeting? The most disadvantaged, because they are the ones that we need to get into sport. They are the ones that need that support. They're not going to be able to walk to the Devonport Oval. We won't worry about the location, because the consensus around the table is the fact that the Devonport Oval is preferred, even though the two other sports, or three other sports that are currently at capacity from a high ball standard for the facility at East Devonport are volleyball, badminton and futsal are all played in East Devonport. But yet, we're going to build the new highball stadium at the completely other side of the city. However, that's the will of the council. The issue I have is that we are putting at risk the Valley Road development because we do not have, and in the current political environment, a commitment to fund the $30 to $40 million shortfall with what is being proposed. The data that we have at the moment states quite clearly from the Sporting Infrastructure Master Plan that the required need for community participation, the required demand and need is 3 basketball courts. Not 4, not 6, it's 3. That is to meet future demand and current demand out to 2041. Now, again, as I said, we are putting at risk another one of the major priorities for the Sporting Infrastructure Master Plan, which has now been identified tonight. As it says in point 1, we are now putting that at risk because the funding for that indoor sports complex is now hinged on whether we get funding for it. So if we don't get the funding for the indoor sports stadium to the level that is required to meet the need, I mean, I think we're going to face some significant challenges for the residents of North Benton Street with respect to building a brand new stadium down there in their front yard. However, what really concerns me is the fact that we have a project shovel ready. Devonport City Soccer Club Inc. is lodging their application for a building permit this week. We are now, with this resolution, going to go through a process where we're going to commence engagement with associated clubs and key stakeholders to support advocacy and identification of funding opportunities. That is 6 to 12 months down the road. And unfortunately, that may have a significant impact with respect to when a project at Valley Road may get off the ground. And that's a serious concern. We needed to maintain momentum here. We are not going to do that. At the end of the day, it'll be the will of the council. However, I think the fact that this is a major generational infrastructure investment. This is not infrastructure for 5 years. This is not infrastructure for 10 years. This is 40 to 50 years worth of investment, and we need to get it right. However, as I stated, the fact that we are going to locate something in not necessarily a very open or, from a construction perspective, easy location that doesn't provide any opportunity for future growth. And the fact that the direction, as our residential growth strategy highlights, the direction of our future growth is East Devonport, but we're not willing to invest there. However, it'll be what it'll be. Unfortunately, we are now running the risk of putting a high priority project at risk and kicking the can down the road.
Councillor Ennis. Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Thank you. I think council was in a very enviable position to be able to progress 2 major projects. It's fantastic. You know, I often get people asking, and I said it before, about how does Devonport manage to progress these things, because we have a vision, and to make this happen, it will be awesome. I have some reservations about parts of it, but I'm more than happy to support the recommendation because it is really going to progress. You know, we had a look at a whole lot of things on our sporting infrastructure priorities, and this is really making a big dent in them, which is fantastic. And so for us to push on, the fantastic work by the council, and the council offices, not only in the arts area, but in the sports infrastructure area, with robust scoring systems and so forth that they put in place, really does make hard decisions a lot easier. Yeah, I support it and looking forward to it.
Thank you. Further comments?
Questions?
Do you have questions?
Got questions?
Any further comments before we have questions? Councillor Moore.
Yeah, I'm in support of the integrated approach. I think that this is a motion that's actually very generous to the Valley Road development. It's a sport with amazing participation, but the facilities are not multi-use sports. I would think and hope that the Devonport strikers of Valley Road would be very happy with the intent of the $4.5 million to build their proposed grandstand facility. But I believe that it has to go hand in hand with the indoor sports complex. The integrated approach puts both projects on equal footing and creates a whole city improvement rather than just one club prospering. I take Councillor Murphy's point, and I understand that the Valley Road precinct, they want to move in a much more timely fashion, and they want to start their project at the end of the season. But I also take Councillor Murphy's point that this is a 40 to 50 year investment for the city. And while it's obviously frustrating, I don't think that waiting another 6 or even 12 months if it had to be for our plans on the highball stadium or the indoor sports complex, I don't think that the wait, while frustrating, would actually be a bad investment for something that's only a once in a 20 or 30 or 40 year opportunity.
Thank you. Further comments? So we have questions now. Councillor Hollister.
Question.
Yes.
$1.5 million is the request from the soccer club from council. We need to find $3 million, which is either allowed to come from the $25, if it is, which I don't believe we have permission to do that at this stage. The only other option then is to council put in the $3 million, which will take most of our surplus that we've got in our budget. So I think they're the questions there. I still think the site for a basketball is a bit up in the air. Basketball and netball indoor facility. We looked at 4 sites. Don't really agree with the 4 sites we looked at. You can make those sort of weighting figures say what you want them to. I still think that if there's council reforms, which government's saying it can't stay as is, so if we wound up being amalgamated, I think there are better sites in the future. We'll probably need more funding from federal and state government and probably council to actually acquire a site. So whatever that costs, we'd have to find that extra funding for, a much better highball court system. So it's a funny question. If someone would like to tackle it.
No, Councillor Murphy, you're not answering the question.
No, I want to ask one though. Yeah, thank you.
Just bear with me. So the question is?
Have we got permission from the federal government to take some of that $3 million out of the funding we've already got?
Thank you.
Yes, through Mayor, we don't at this stage, and that's the recommendation with point 3 that we commence those negotiations. And our expectation is that that could take in the order of 6 months to be resolved. In the meantime, that will allow council to work through the funding arrangement with for both projects effectively. As it sits at this point in time, no, we haven't approached the federal government about the possibility of redistributing that $25. And the recommendation is that we do.
Further question is, soccer club actually got a builder and that all in place? If we know.
I believe so.
Thank you. Councillor Harley, you've got a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Murphy, for being patient. First one is that the Valley Road development that was in the original SIMP proposal and was ranked, I think, for 5th or 6th highest priority. Has that significantly changed to the current proposal at Valley Road?
Through to Mr. Scurvy.
Through you, Mayor. So the current scope of what the strikers are proposing to construct is a different combination of the way the projects are presented in the Sports Infrastructure Master Plan. So there were 2 standalone projects, and the highest ranked project incorporated 2 stages. So what's proposed and outlined in the report in terms of the project scope is a combination of stages 1 and 2 from that highest ranked project.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy, you have a question.
I've got a number of questions, if it's all right, Mayor.
Depends.
This will be the General Manager, has there been preliminary conversations with the federal government with respect to potentially carving out the $3 million from the current grant fund of $25 million?
No, through you, we haven't started those discussions yet.
Not formally?
You understand the soccer club may have approached them, but not council.
And my second question is, with respect to what is the level of funding that we would be seeking approximately with respect from the state government, I'm assuming, because if the federal government's already tipped in $25 million for the SIP with 2 high priority projects, what is the forecast commitment that the council will be looking for from the state government to meet the 2 priorities?
Through you, Mayor, those numbers haven't been finalised yet, like we talked about at the workshop. We anticipated sort of in that order of 15 plus, up to, it will depend on what the scope is and whether that's, if there's other discussions that council might have with the state government or with any of the sporting bodies or any other avenue to make up that shortfall. There's no change to what we talked about at the workshop.
So my third question is then, so the fact that we've engaged Pebble Thorpe on the fact-finding mission that occurred with respect that you participated in, on average, what was the cost of the facilities that you looked at? Just an average, just a ballpark. What was the cost of the facilities that you looked at to achieve what's being proposed?
So through you, Mayor, so the range of facilities that we looked at incorporated generally 2 different types of court-based facilities. Community-based courts, which generally don't have a significant amount of patron or other event capacity, and they would average around $5 million per court. That's it, that's an overall project development. That's very similar to the Sorrel project that's just been delivered at Pembroke Park. That's the right name. So that's a 2-court facility with a single show court running down. So same layout as our current Forbes Street site. That was a $10.2 million project. So those community-based courts and incorporating the additional change facilities and club facilities, averaging around that $5 million mark per court. Show courts vary significantly in terms of the additional event accommodation capacity that they have. So that's crowd number and also other technology. And that's generally around hosting non-sporting activities. And they can be upwards of $20 million per court. We haven't visited a facility or seen a facility that has the same mix of what we're proposing for the Devonport facility, which is really a 2-court space targeting around a 2,000 seat patron capacity number. Most of the show court facilities that have been recently developed are much larger than that, usually double that patron capacity number.
Okay, so if I take from that then, Mr. Skirving, that if we're looking at $10 million per community, $5 million per community court, that's in the order of 4 courts, $5 million, that's $20 million. But the report states
The
that,
question is,
I'm getting to that, Mayor,
Thank
thank you. So with what you've just said then, with respect to then there would be an ancillary to court with the show court model with a 2,000 seat stadium, etc. That is in the order of 20 million plus, is that correct? Just to get it through my thick head.
Through you, Mayor, that order of cost, yes, there's still a lot of detail to be resolved on that component of the project, and also with other potential participants in the project in terms of scope. The recommendation before council is, and the decision that council's taken previously around appointing Pedal Thor is to pursue a project that includes both the community court and the show court component. And that's what we will continue to do in terms of refining that project scope. The community court element is the most known and probably most similar to the Bacchus Marsh facility that we visited, which was around a $20 million project. The show court component is an aspirational element of the project, something that the council's committed to pursuing. We know that there's need for that in the region, and we've always positioned that with council as a requirement to seek additional funding to deliver that component of the project, as it's not solely the responsibility of the Devonport Ratepayer to fund regional level facilities.
Just on that point, can I just ask a question then with respect to, you just mentioned need. Where's the data or evidence to support the need, just in that statement? That was all.
So there's currently no dedicated netball facility that can host a team such as the Devon netball team at the moment. And we know in terms of engagement with other codes that the other facilities, in terms of crowd number and also some other functional elements of the facilities, are not meeting their needs within our region at the moment.
So that information is somewhere where that's been identified, that the need for the current functionality of those facilities is not being met.
how many questions are we going to go for tonight, Councillor Murphy? We can't be here all night for this.
Why is that,
We had
Mayor?
workshop this.
Why?
We had workshop this. Keep going.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that. I don't appreciate the look, Mayor. Thank you.
No, I won't have
Thank
consent
you.
here.
Might need to be a bit more specific, Mayor, if possible, in terms of what specifically was the question again?
Just with respect to where has it been identified that the region has not been meeting the need of, and we're not talking about necessarily netball, because that's been an issue for an extensive period, long period of time. I thought this was more generally around a basketball stadium. Is that correct? Or?
No, so the scope of the Devonport Stadium project is a co-location of both netball and basketball. So the current facilities within our region top out at around 1,000 persons in terms of crowd capacity. The participants to the region would like facilities that could host significantly more than that. We certainly know the average crowd for an NBL1 match, for example, where we have a team within our region who participates in that crowd, is significantly above that number. There are other functional challenges with the facilities that are being used in the region for those kind of high-level competition at the moment, in terms of premium corporate facilities and other off-court activities where there isn't a venue that's really meeting the needs of those user groups that's well understood in terms of the facility provision in our region.
Next question, Mayor. This one is to the General Manager with respect to is there any risk with respect to if the state government is unable to meet the necessary funding commitment with respect to achieving what Mr. Skirving has just outlined, is there any element of risk with respect to potentially one of the projects that's been identified as a priority not coming to fruition? Is there an element of risk?
Through you, Mayor. If I understand the question correctly, you're saying is there a risk the 3 million that is currently committed to Valley Road, is there a risk that could be lost? Is that the question?
Well, there isn't.
I guess if if that's the question, the answer is our understanding in regard to that grant is that the state are flexible, and if that is 12 to 24 months before the solution is resolved, they advise that there wouldn't be a risk that they pull the money. But overall, I'm not going to sit here and say there is no risk in any of that. But what I am saying is our advice in the report is the best opportunity council's got to fund these two projects is to be united and have a unanimous decision around this, and go to government with a clear plan on what you wish to achieve, and certainly the funding model can continue to be, need to be developed and evolved and updated. We have the question from the federal government about what we can do with the 25. We've got the timeframes that the state will require around their existing commitment, and all of that will unfold. Our advice is clear that we think the best opportunity is to have a united position for the betterment of both of them.
And probably the final question, is there an element of risk with a delay with respect to, as I believe there is currently a tender process has been undertaken with the Valley Road development. There is a fixed cost involved. If there is a delay, does that then expose council to potentially an increased level of a funding commitment if it is delayed, say potentially 6 to 12 months as you've just outlined? And is that something financially that council can, moving forward, look to address?
Through you there, there's always that risk that construction costs can escalate and are likely to increase to some degree over the next 12-month period. That's a given as to how much and what impact that will have on the project. You wouldn't think that it would get to the point that it still wasn't possible to proceed.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. You had another question, Councillor Hollister?
Pardon?
You've got another question?
Yes. With council reforms, which we're looking at, we could line up with a regional council of 4 cities, and they're also looking at 6 or 7 municipalities. So, and this end of the case being the one that's growing, got the most population by far. Does that mean there'd be more funding from a regional perspective? We'll be able to, especially for a stadium, I'm thinking more of.
It's a hypothetical at the moment, Councillor Hollister. We really don't know, do we?
But it's something.
Well, we can talk about all hypotheticals or not.
But it is something that's going to change.
We don't know though, do we?
Well,
no.
The
there's a plan A, there's a plan B, there could be a plan C.
Okay.
Thank you. I will just point out that the basketball community and our netball community deserve the respect of a new multi-purpose facility, and that's what we're working towards, and that's what the money was given to us for. I certainly respect our Devonport soccer fraternity and understand that unfortunately they went with the wrong political party when they were given some money promised in an election.
Point of order, Mayor.
And then they came to us.
Point of order, Mayor. As far as I'm aware, the funding for the sporting infrastructure master plan was not for one code or another. You just made a statement that said, yeah,
yes,
I just wanted to clarify that, Mayor.
A new multi-purpose facility. I know what I said, Councillor Murphy.
With respect, it just needs to be factual.
I just repeated what I said, and I'll repeat it again. And the council and the soccer fraternity deserve our respect as well, and that's why we've bent over backwards by having many workshops since Christmas, working on how we can find some more money for them because they lost the funding that was promised. We are going out of our way. That's why we're trying to get to an end result so we can get moving forward. Now we can spend all night talking about it, or we can get on with it. I suggest we get on with it. Can I have Councillor Viney to close, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually just did have one more question. I I should have just rolled on like Councillor Murphy, but I thought we were taking turns. So just finally, before I summarise up, I think it's more in relation to recommendation number 4, which was the choosing Devonport over East Devonport. Personally, I thought those two sites would have been a lot closer from the assessment done. So the question is that East Devonport was scored significantly lower on connectivity, in particular the road networks and access constraints, and also on the strategic alignment. And if we could just perhaps fleece out why it was scored so lowly on those two key indicators, I'd appreciate it, please.
Mr. Scurvy, thank you.
Yes, through you, Mayor. So in order, road access or access to the facility. So that assessment was specifically looking at our road network hierarchy in Devonport. So we have a structure right from state highway to basically local residential street, which identifies, I guess, a preferred investment, preferred traffic routes, and capacity for that road network to accommodate the traffic demand in terms of the city. It's in terms of an assessment against the road network hierarchy, the Devonport Oval precinct is better served in terms of the cascading priority through those different classes. That is partly because obviously it is a site within the central, closer to the central business district, but nevertheless against those categories that is an important factor. There are some other access options from East Devonport that don't fit a similar hierarchy, but there are some other challenges in East Devonport in terms of a greater reliance on residential streets to access the East Devonport Rec Centre precinct compared to the Devonport Oval precinct. So that's certainly one factor there. The other elements around strategic alignment, and Councillor Murphy did share some questions during the last week or so in regards to this, and particularly around strategic alignment and club preference. And certainly Devonport Oval, based on the stated preference of the two key stakeholder clubs being basketball and netball for the Devonport Oval precinct, has been a consistent position that they've taken. And that element aside, as we shared with councillors in the many workshops that we've had, there are a number of locations that we could technically deliver the facility, and they're quite close in terms of scoring. But certainly those two key stakeholder clubs have been very consistent in terms of their position to council. They have some common and some different reasons for that position that they're bringing. But nevertheless, I think it's important for council to have regard to those preferences. They have been closely considered and consistently put to council in terms of Devonport Oval being their preferred co-location option.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, like I prefaced right at the start, I thought this decision being so important to get right, I think it deserved the discussion that we've had here tonight, and I'm glad everyone had an opportunity to have their say and questions were asked, because I do think it's a big decision, and having the 5 recommendations certainly make it large and complex. I welcome those answers from Mr. Scurvy, because I think what shouldn't be lost in half of what I want to talk about is how important this highball stadium is, and in particular to the netball and basketball community. And so I certainly welcome their input, and if they say that we want it at Devonport Oval, I think that council should listen to the main users in that regard. I saw it was written down that we're looking to call this the Devonport Indoor Sports Complex, potentially, which I think DISC has a nice ring to it, maybe with some creative architecture, Stacey, to make it DISC-like. But I also think with its location, it's certainly going to be a great opportunity for football and cricket too, for co-usage, keeping in mind that this won't become a winter training session for the football club, obviously, because the netball and basketball take priorities, and I'd imagine Thursday nights is pretty busy for basketball and netball, especially when it's raining. So if we put that to the side, and then we talk about like the Valley Road project, and it shouldn't be lost on anyone in the room that arguably the Devonport Strikers are our city's most successful current football club. apologies to the Devonport Football Club, who've won back-to-back premierships, but last week, correct me if I'm wrong,
Soccer.
correct me if I'm wrong, the Strikers again won their way into the final round of 32 for they won the Lakaseki Cup, which, thank you, Councillor Murphy, which means that there is a 50% chance they'll draw another home game at Valley Road. And I would encourage all the councillors to get to that game, because the three that they've had there in the past 5 or 6 years are probably the most intense and exciting sporting events that I've ever been to in Devonport. So the Devonport Strikers and Valley Road is equally as important. And I think what we're trying to do as a council is to accommodate both. And I think the recommendations, the 5 that are there, are hopefully going to put us in the best stead to achieve all of those projects with the most amount of outcomes that will will please everyone. It won't please everyone. There's definitely going to be some kickback, but I think it's a great way forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Viney. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Item 6 is information. 6.1, workshops and briefing sessions held since the last council meeting. The recommendation is there. If I can have a mover, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Second.
Councillor Viney. Councillor Murphy.
Merely procedural, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Viney.
Yeah, it's all there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further from the table? No. Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So carried. Thank you. 6.2 is the Mayor's monthly report. Recommendation is there. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Hollister and Councillor Sheen. Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
We've been busy as usual. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor Sheen.
Yeah, Mac, may I ask how you enjoyed National Simultaneous Story Time?
Well, you got to do that as well, which is lovely. So that was wonderful, wasn't it? What a great book. If anyone can get that book about the slop, it was just brilliant. Yes, thank you. It was one of the nicest things I get to do, I guess.
Part of the packed schedule, but yeah, it was good fun. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Any further comment?
Yes, Mayor, you do. Thanks.
Councillor.
Just with respect to the meeting you had with General Manager Gerald Monson of Latrobe and Kentish and Latrobe Mayor, obviously with what's happening at the moment with the local government review, was that a conversation topic? And if so, how did it go?
Well, I'll start if you like. Yes, we did instigate that. We thought it was high time that we did the right thing and go and start talking to any of our bordering councils. This is just the first of many meetings that perhaps we might be having. And we had a very good conversation. It went a lot better than I actually thought it would, really, because I think we looked at, well, we are what we are and how it is now. And obviously that is 2 councils that have learned how to work together very well and share a general manager. However, they don't share a lot of things yet. And how does that look though if it's a forced change of boundaries? I don't like that A word. And how that actually would look. And they were very good at being able just to talk about that. I know that they're first and foremost about staying as is, and I totally respect that. However, it might not be in our hands of making that decision. That might be out of our hands. So we needed to say, okay, plan A is stay as is. Plan B, what does that look like? We just needed to know. Would you like to add anything more to that, Julian? I covered it well. There you go. So it was great. It was really healthy. And we appreciate the General Manager and both mayors sitting down with us and talking very frankly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comment? Councillor Hollister, you have your light on?
Sorry.
Oh, you don't have the light on. Okay. So, Councillor Viney.
Yes, sorry, Mayor. I did notice here that you met with the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra. I was hoping that might mean that they're coming back. Can we shed some light on that? Is that okay?
I'm quite happy to say it was a very good conversation. Yes, and they certainly instigated that themselves. They wanted to come and debrief on how well our staff handled their first event and were exemplary in their confidence in our staff and how easy it was made for them. They felt very at home here. They enjoyed the process so much that they're hoping to do something with us again. How that looks, we're not quite sure yet. That's all. It's just the baby stages. But I would like to say that I believe we would have the TSO back here. But how and when, I'm not sure just yet. But it was very, very good discussion. Yes, thank you. Any further questions
Question on the
or
TSO.
comments? Councillor Hollister, sorry.
Did they make any comment as to whether we could get another 3,000 or 4,000 into that area for the concert? I thought there was quite a lot of spaces there.
I will say that because they offered the tickets as free tickets, and there were 5,000 tickets handed out, and certainly allowed them to gather information on who and what, they do believe that roughly, Jeff, it was about 3,500 that definitely turned up. They're not sure. They don't believe the whole 5,000 were there. So it gives us an idea that there's still room to work on, but whether or not we can fit a lot more in that area. It was beautiful the way it was, I must say, from being there myself. The pathways and all the access that everybody had, everyone loved the way it was. So I certainly don't want to overcrowd it, but we do know that many people wanted to come and had to sit on the sidelines to listen in. So we are aware of that. Again, more things to work with. Thank you. Any further questions on my monthly report?
Madam Mayor,
Oh,
your meeting with Dave Race, was that to do with the airport or the Chamber of Commerce?
both?
Both?
Yes.
Keep going well then.
Oh, okay. We certainly were talking about those matters. We appreciate the Chamber and what we get to do with them and how we're working with them, and it works very well. But we certainly did talk further about the airport as well, and where you're at the moment. All good? Thank you. I will ask Councillor Hollister to close.
Consider it closed.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you. 6.3 is the General Manager's report. The recommendation is there. If I could have a mover
So
and
moved.
seconder, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Shannon, Councillor Murphy.
Yes, Mayor, it's all there in the report. I just have one question to the General Manager. With respect to the Stony Rise Village development, so there was a condition placed upon the development with respect to an upgrade of the Stony Rise Road and Friend Street intersection. And is that something that Council will be looking at into the future with respect to what will occur there and what are our options?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, the answer is yes. I understand the developer will be writing to council in the near future in regard to that upgrade.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Murphy? No? Councillor Shannon.
Thanks, Mayor. I was wondering if you would be able to get just a little bit more information on the meeting with Dave Race. Where is the master plan up to? To the best of your knowledge. Sorry, through you there.
Yes, through you, Mayor. We didn't talk about the master plan in any detail. We talked about some of the information that we received with that briefing from Qantas, the workshop briefing, and some of the feedback from that. We just clarified with David as the airport manager. We talked about some of the work he's doing for additional flights into the airport and the options and challenges around that. I think you mentioned the master plan is still that's their vision for that site, and they're still committed to it. We didn't go into any detail around where exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. I just wondered, when you were having a discussion, were you with Dave, was there any talk about Rex continuing, Rex Airlines?
Through there, we didn't really talk about Rex.
Yep.
Councillor Vine.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Congratulations, GM, on your report. It says here that you've ended 6 years as State Director of the Local Government Professionals National Board. Does that mean you had to leave after 6 years? That was the term?
Yes. Time's come to end.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
It's fair to say that the organisation is taking a different direction to us an opportune time.
Get off.
Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just with respect to a fairly exciting one from my perspective, it's something that's been a bit of a pet project, if you like, with respect to the number of urgent updates required to the Cradle Coast Regional Land Use Strategy. We have now got a commitment, or a number of amendments have been made to the regional strategy. Is there any further light you can sort of put on that with respect to what the potential impacts are, and in the short term, medium term?
Mr. Skirby, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. So yes, the Cradle Coast Regional Land Use Strategy is an ageing document, and particularly in terms of projected growth in population and demand for development within the Devonport region didn't serve our city particularly well. So pleasing to see that that document has now made some minor amendments to at least call in the ability to refer to more recent data, and also largely some of the initiatives that the council's adopted in terms of our residential growth strategy are more reasonably represented in that document. As part of that process, there's also a current redraft and some work happening of the and development of a new regional strategy underway at the same time, but it was important to pursue those minor amendments being made to support particularly rezoning applications as they're presented to council and presented to TPC.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Hollister.
So the General Manager's been appointed to the Premier's Local Government Council. Is that a good place to, a good forum to look at the inequities in the fire service levy?
Yeah, through your Mayor, possibly. I haven't actually had a meeting yet, but that forum is where the government test any policy matters that relate to our government, and certainly the fire levy fits into that category.
So anything coming forward, say from McGatt, GMC, etc., do they go to the Premier's board first?
I understand that.
Thank you.
Good point. Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Councillor Shane. No, that's fine. Therefore, Councillor Murphy closed, please. That's right.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you. 6.4, the monthly operational report is there. A recommendation is there. If I could have a mover, please.
So moved.
Councillor Viney.
Second.
Councillor Murphy. Thank you. Councillor Viney.
Thank you, Mayor. There's an awful lot of information in that monthly operational report, but I'm glad to see that all the graphs seem pretty legible and clear to read. And I encourage anybody who's interested to go into all of that in detail. I will say that in this last month, I hosted an event here at the Paranacle Centre, and should say that the staff involved with that, Faye, and other people have escaped me right now, but they do an excellent job, and it's a very professional setup to conduct business in this space. So it's a real privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's why we've been nominated for things. You're doing a really great job. Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Hopefully Mayor looked after herself and didn't end up with RSI after signing so many volunteer certificates.
624 of them. Thank you very much. Isn't that amazing? Thank you. Councillor Shane.
Thanks, Mayor. Well done. I'd just like to note a number of the councillors attended the memorial seat at the Don Park on a very cold day, and I note that former Mayor Lynn Laycock's here this evening. Would just like to acknowledge the work that she put in over many years to get that project to fruition. It's just a lovely ceremony, and it's great to see local figures of Devonport acknowledged in that way.
Here. Thank you for that. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. A lot of, as as been mentioned, there's a lot of information in here. One of the things that I just wanted to check up on 3.3.2, the venues for the Devonport Cup, it says Merecroft Park, Don Oval, Valley Road and Eugene Street. Were there any others?
That's the four names, I thought.
Devonport Oval.
Through you now say that John Oval's a typo, should say Devonport Oval.
Thank you.
Good pick up there, Councillor Ennis. Well done. Thank you. Any further comments, Councillor Moore?
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm hoping I can ask it here because it actually happened in June and I realise that this is only May, but in animal control, are we able to get an update about the horrible couple of incidences with the alpacas and the goats?
Thank you, Ms Lunson.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Happy to take a question. You've got a specific question you had in mind?
I guess obviously it's council's responsibility, so can you just update us on what has occurred since the attacks? In terms of what the council has done since the attacks?
So council investigated as best we can. We're obviously restricted with the information that we have available. So certainly to date, we've not been able to identify what animal caused those attacks or animals. We've installed cameras in the area in an attempt to try and see if there's dogs or other animals running around in the night as the attacks seem to be happening overnight. We've also done checks on registrations of dogs in the area, so we've literally gone around properties to check if they've got dogs there and then do an audit to see that they're actually registered as a starting point. Yeah, that's the main part of the investigation today.
A difficult one to contain. Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Hollister.
I've got a further question on the same lines. Have there been any dangerous dog attacks or reports in these Devonport in the last 4 weeks? Because I've got one.
Ms Lunson.
Through you, Mayor, we have declared a dog dangerous in the last week. It wasn't in East Devonport.
There will be.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I would encourage any member of the public to report dog attacks of any nature. It's quite common for us, for people, when we have an incident, people say, oh, this has happened, and that's, people don't report them, and we can't stop things happening if they're not reported.
All said. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor.
Councillor Murphy.
Just to Ms Lunson, the reporting mechanism for that is on council's website. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. If I may, I have a couple of questions. Item 6.4, 2.1, the track through the cemetery, the link. It's wonderful that we've done that. Very pleased to see that we're doing that from Lawrence Drive through to the Don Road. There seems to be one little spot that doesn't link. Are we aiming to put that into the forward plan, or is it okay to use from one path to the next? That's my question.
Through you, Mayor, I reckon Mr Bellchambers may like to answer that, or Mr Skirby.
Handball 2. Yes, there's a path from Lawrence Drive. I'll just elaborate. There's a path through Lawrence Drive, the new path, and then it stops about halfway down the hill beside the road and through into the cemetery. And then there's just more mud, asphalt, and then there's a new cement path down the bottom of the hill out to Don Road, which is fantastic. We love both of them, but we're just wondering, are we aiming to link the two eventually? It's just been a question asked from outside to me.
Just a friendly message from our works manager. Yes, there are future stages proposed. There is an existing gravel trail network around that does link those two components, but I think the intent in a future budget is to complete that link with a new pathway between the two.
Because if you've got a plan, it's not as easy, that's all. Thank you. And I'd just like to point out item 3.1 event Claire Bowditch, what an amazing event, a wonderful event. clap to everybody, huge applause to everybody that's involved, let alone Claire herself, she was incredible. Thank you to Jenny Mountain for finding her for us and all the work the staff did to 420 odd wonderful people in the room, just awestruck by this lady, and I bought her book and it's incredible. We've got her on the link of it, it's amazing. And then we've got Karen Young tomorrow, so our health and wellbeing strategy is just taken off with a bang, and I'm just so pleased and proud. I think we've got at least 180 attending tomorrow night, so can't wait. And we've also got her on the Wednesday at 10:30. Yes, Volunteer Week was incredible, 624 certificates. That's just the ones that were asked. So imagine how many volunteers we do have in this marvellous community, and thank you to every person that volunteers, whether it be to work in a cafeteria at a school, or to do a breakfast, or to work at a school, a sporting club, to referee. You're all volunteers, you're all marvellous, and we love you. And I just wanted to say that we worked out the easy part stats, didn't we? So that's fine. Thank you, all good. And don't forget, we've got Devonport Jazz, 27th to the 30th of July. The program is out now. I've finished. Thank you very much. Councillor Viney to close.
Consider it closed, Dan. Well done. Thank you.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you. We are now moving on to our closed session.
I move.
If I can have a mover, thank you, Councillor Murphy. And a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Moore. Councillor Murphy.
Muted, special man.
Councillor Moore. Any further comment? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? So moved. Thank you to the gallery. Thank you very much.